The Mishnah Berurah actually addresses the question of language in several other places in the Shulchan Aruch. First, in Samach Bet. Samach Bet is about reading Kriyat Shema. And Chazal were very concerned that when you read Kriyat Shema, you should read it precisely, in a way that everybody can understand, and certainly in a way that you yourself will be able to understand. And so the Shulchan Aruch makes the following addition. Even though there's a special obligation that we accept when we say Kriyat Shema, that we try to read the consonants, the letters, very precisely. If you read imprecisely, the Shulchan Aruch says, then you nevertheless have fulfilled the mitzvah. And then the second paragraph, the Shulchan Aruch says, not only can you read Kriyat Shema in a less than perfect way, in Ivrit, in the Lashon HaKodesh, but you could read it in any language. Right? You can read Kriyat Shema in any language and perform the mitzvah. Rashi says this: any language, there's a condition. You have to understand the language that you read the Shema in. If you read the Shema in Ivrit, as we will see, and you don't understand exactly what you're saying, you've still accomplished the mitzvah. But if you read Kriyat Shema in Japanese, and you don't understand Japanese, then you haven't done the mitzvah. And this rule applies, the Mishnah Berurah says, to Tefillah, Birkat HaMazon, the grace after the meals, Kiddush, we say on Shabbat and on Yom Tov, Birkat HaMitzvot VaPeirot, all the brachot that we say all day long, those on mitzvot and those on food, Hallel, right? Kol Zeh Mitzad Hadin. So the Mishnah Berurah says this is the way the bold letter of the law is. That if you read any of these obligatory texts, or you state these obligatory texts in a non-Hebrew language, you're Yotze if you understand the language. But all of that is Mi'ikar. He says, Aval, but mitzvah min ha'muvchar, the same phrase that was employed yesterday. If you want to do the mitzvah in the best possible way, if you want to do the mitzvah as though it was the only thing that is possible to say, hu dafka b'lashon hakodesh. Dafka b'lashon hakodesh. You should say these texts in Ivrit. And then he says, there are many achronim who try to explain this distinction. In our day, in our time, it may be that this was influenced by the work of the reformers, the theologians in Europe, the people who tried to take us away from the Hebrew language, and for whatever reason, instate the local language as the language of prayer. He says, in our day, we have to be very careful that we don't daven or say Birkat HaMazon or Brachot Hallel in any other language except Lashon HaKodesh. And then the Mishnah Berurah goes on to explain why speculatively this is true. He says there are some words in Hebrew which we know how to translate, but there are other words that don't work so well in translation. And therefore, in order to get a more precise understanding of what we're saying, obviously we have to say it in Hebrew, and we have to understand it in Hebrew. And therefore, there are even words in Kriyat Shema whose translation is not clear to us. I mean, we don't know how to translate, like that participle et. I mean, the preposition et, which you know is almost impossible to translate. Also, the word letotafot, which refers, of course, to tefillin, but what's the difference between calling them tefillin and calling them totafot? So when we read the Shema in Lashon HaKodesh in Hebrew, and also when we daven in Hebrew, we say Birkat HaMazon in Hebrew, even if I don't understand exactly what totafot means, but I understand something, and I've said it in the better way. I've given the nuances an opportunity to affect what I've said, so I've actually done a mitzvah min hamuvchar, a preferred mitzvah act.